So don't ask, because I'm asking questions. Those are brand new.
I think somebody was taking a picture. That or TNC. Strangers.
I tried to help you. I tried my best. But you won't get smaller things. Just can't help it.
This guy.
It's 4:35. I've been this was start time. So. Would you lead us in the pledge? Mayor Pro Tem, would you lead us in?
Yep. Sure.
All right, I think it's about 4:35, and we'll call the meeting of the Canyon City Commission to order. With that, Mayor Pro Tem, would you lead us in?
Sure. Would you pray with me?
Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you so much for this beautiful day here in Canyon, Texas. Father, we thank you for your continued blessings on this community, Father, and we thank you for the continued safety of the men and women who serve the community here and work for the city of Canyon. Father, we just pray for their continued safety. Father, just be with us as we make decisions for our future here and as we honor some folks in our city. We love you and praise you in Christ's name. Amen.
Say the pledge with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that takes us to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 5th, 2022.
Mayor, I looked over them, and if there are no changes, I move that we accept them.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, takes us to item number 5, public comments from interested citizens. Great.
Nobody has signed in, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 6 is presentation of a proclamation for Canyon High School, our state title recipients. And so,
Coming in.
There was just one for a second.
you know what, if you all want to, I have a proclamation to read, so if you want to stand right there, I'll read the proclamation to you here. So if you want to, y'all come on in and, yeah, fill up all this space. That's
Y'all
great.
come
So,
in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
and if you want to, go ahead and turn this way, and, yeah. Yeah, why don't I do that since we've got so many folks, and yeah, just go ahead and fill in this whole area here is fine. So. All right, a proclamation of the City of Canyon. Whereas, on behalf of the City Commission and all the citizens of Canyon, it is with a great deal of pleasure to express to all the members of the Canyon High School State Champions our sincere congratulations on all your success. And whereas, with another exciting and successful season, we are proud of the honors you have earned through the years of hard work and commitment and the fine publicity you have brought to our community by your inspired commitment to excellence. And whereas, we are pleased to publicly commend the state and national champions of CHS. State champions, CHS boys cross country team. State individual champion, CHS cross country runner Avery Brown. FFA state and national champion, Scott Henderson, ag mechanics repair and maintenance. FFA state and national champion, Tanner Owen, agriculture sales. FFA state and national champion, Sonny Callie, goat production. FFA state champion and national finalist, Tyler Schonenberger, ag mechanics design and fabrication. FFA state champion and national gold, Cannon Rosser, swine production. FFA state champion and national silver, Cersei Peoples, outdoor recreation. And all that placed in state, and to extend this token of affection and admiration with which you are all regarded in this city. Now therefore, we, Gary Henders, Mayor, Cody Jones, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners Kelsey Ward, Paul R. Lyons, and Randy Ray of the City of Canyon, Texas, do hereby proclaim January 2023 as Canyon High School State and National Champions Month and express sincere appreciation to these honored citizens. Given under my hand and seal of office this 9th day of January 2023. And we'd also like to congratulate to those placing in state competitions. CHS Girls Cross Country placed 4th in state. CHS Marching Band placed 6th in state. CHS FFA Ag Issues placed 3rd in state. CHS FFA Senior Ag Skills placed 10th in state. And CHS Choir, 11 students made All-State Choir. And CHS Band, 10 students made All-State Band. Really proud of you all. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for the excellence. I know CHS and just the program, Jennifer Bourne's here, and just takes a lot of pride in achieving excellence. You all have done it well, and on behalf of the commission here, we're very proud of you, and you represent our city well. So thank you for what you've done. Thank you for being here today.
I'm gonna try.
Like a quick picture, so everybody say cheese.
You wanna come around the front, Gary?
And take one.
Don't want to come around.
I bet they just need you.
I'll say cheese. I think she wanted to get a picture.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yes, congrats.
Good job.
Job, Cersei.
Bunch of winners.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coach, congratulations. Well, those are some of the fun parts of living in Canyon, Texas. So.
Definitely.
All right. Takes us to the introduction and welcome of Economic Development Executive Director Stephanie Tucker. Joe?
Yeah. Stephanie, you can't hide in the back forever. Come on up. So, City Commission, Stephanie started earlier this week, I think. Yes, or last week.
Last week.
Last week. And so we're excited to bring her on and she's full of energy. She has not had her first EDC meeting. That is Thursday. But obviously a very long process, and we're just happy to have her. She lives here in Canyon. Obviously, some of y'all probably already know her or of her. And we're excited to build this EDC team. We've got some great staff over there in addition to Stephanie, and I think we've got a lot of really great things to look forward to in the future under the leadership of Stephanie, the EDC board, and the staff that's over there. It's a well-rounded team, I think, and we're just excited. So, Stephanie, anything you would like to say?
No, I just can't wait. I mean, the city of Kenyon is not just a great place to live, but it's gonna be a great place to grow businesses too. So look forward to it. Thank y'all for the opportunity.
She'll be making the rounds to see each one of y'all, I'm sure, over the next so many months, so she'll be breathing.
Be careful. No, but thank y'all again, very much.
Well, welcome, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, consider and take appropriate action on base bid from Plains Builders for the Kylie Heiner Memorial Playground Project. John?
Well, we've received bids. I'm gonna turn it over to Zolfo and let him address this issue.
So, on December 1st, we had a bid opening and received bids for the construction of the Kylie Heiner Memorial Park. We received 2 bids, one in the amount of $1,104,164, and another bid for $1,197,299.28. I reviewed the bids, looked at all the unit prices, and made a recommendation that the low bidder, which was High Plains Builders out of Amarillo, be awarded the base bid for $1,104,164. It's to build the road and to do the park construction.
And we've met and discussed that and reviewed all those, and it looks like we're getting everything we need in that project. We're gonna discuss that project on the next item also. But what we need to do is just move forward with signing a contract, and we'll be ready to get started. Adolfo, it was how many? It was less than 150 days, I believe.
It's 130 days to
Okay.
complete. And to go ahead and make sure we try to meet the deadline of, that comes up somewhere around in May. I went ahead and had the contractor start getting their submittals ready, get their materials ordered, and actually have the contract with me if you guys are ready to, expedite that process so we don't delay it any longer.
Be ready to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve the base bid for Plains Builders for $1,104,164 for the Kylie Heiner Memorial Playground Project, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Plains Builders for the completion of this project.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
You're too kind.
All right. Item number 9 is the AMBUC's presentation of funds from the Kylie Heiner Memorial Playground Committee. And John, looks like you're taking care of
Again,
this.
yes, the folks are here tonight to discuss the fundraising process and make an award. So let's go ahead, Brian.
Mayor, Commission, I come to you not only as your Parks Director tonight, but also a member of the Southwest AMBUCS and the Canyon Playground Committee. As you know, we've come and told you that our fundraising has been completed. And I just want to come and give you a little bit of an update. Southwest AMBUCS has already ordered and paid for the playground equipment, the turf, padding, and shade structures. It's all been received, and we have got that in storage now. So after we paid for that, there was left a balance of about $520,830. So that money has been delivered to the city as of a couple of weeks ago. So that kind of completes our process. There are a few things lingering out there that we haven't heard from, a couple of grants, but we don't know if we'll get them or not. But so after paying for the playground equipment and all the stuff to go with it, We had that money left in our account, so we wrote a check and transferred that to the city a couple weeks ago. So it is here in the city for the playground now. And just want to thank all the AMBUCs that worked really hard on it. The Canyon Committee, Lions Club, who really put a lot into this. They raised $200,000 in a matter of a month. So I think it's been a great effort with everybody that's taken part in it. So just wanted to come give you an update and let you know that we have given you all the funds to proceed with the project. If there's any other questions, I'll entertain those, but we are glad to see it's moving forward. We're really excited.
This is a good day, all right, Brian. And so it sounds like a pretty short fuse, and we're talking 130 days then? So timeline, so that's great. That's great.
Yeah, we were really wanting to have the playground opened in May, so everything's working out.
Ron, when did you start working on this project? How long you guys been working on it?
3 years ago, about 3 years ago, I had the idea and AMBUCS took it on about 3 years ago. That's fundraising. Through COVID, it's not bad, I don't think.
Well, thank you, and thank you all too. They've been such a huge part of the fundraising and AMBUCS, and appreciate all you've done, so.
And I want to specifically thank Vance too, because Vance, we've been on the ground floor. And the first time we ever fussed and discussed this playground, it was us, and I appreciate you carrying that ball, and I know you have a real heart for that.
Well, I just tell you guys, it's just gonna be great for the kids and all the special needs kids here. Not just the kids, but the parents and everything. It'll give them a lot of help and benefits, so we're glad to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all.
And thank you for being here today too, Mary. So, appreciate it. All right, item number 10 is consider and take appropriate action on utility rate study report as presented by NewGen Strategies and Solutions. Joe?
Good afternoon. I'm going to introduce Dave Yonke with NewGen Strategies and Solutions. You recall engaging NewGen to perform a rate study for us, our utility billing rate study. And that process started actually the fall of 2021. Dave and his staff were here on a very windy day last December and looked at all of our facilities and began gathering information. And since then, have worked very diligently to perform this study. They've met with us. They've taken several special requests from us, from city manager, and have generated this report. So Dave's going to reveal that to us right now and share with us their recommendations.
Good afternoon. Yep, for the record, my name's Dave Yonke. I'm the president of NewGen Strategy Solutions, and glad to be here. I'm going to start off first of all, and I'll just tell you the utility, all three of the utilities, the water, wastewater, and solid waste, are in good financial shape. They've got reserves, you've got plans for growth, but it's in overall good financial shape. Joel, how should I drive this, or? Okay, let's go with the next one. So what I'd like to do and go through in about 12 to 15 minutes, I'll keep it moving along fairly quickly. If you have questions, feel free to interrupt, however. Just first of all, I'm going to tell you about our firm very briefly so you understand who is conducting the study. I'm going to walk through the scope of services, what we were specifically hired to do, and our methodology, and then I'll walk through the water, wastewater, cost service study, and the solid waste rate study. Next. Real quick, our firm, NewGen, we're a 50-person financial consulting firm. Cost of service studies are our bread and butter. We do them in water, wastewater, solid waste, energy, gas, general fund transfer studies, but this is what we do. So just to let you know that. We have 5 offices. I'm out of our Austin, Texas office. You know, whenever you put a PowerPoint together and you go somewhere else, starts getting massaged in different directions and run on, so we'll go with it. Real quick, just my background, I've been doing this for about 30 years, so actually, up the road, I've worked with the city of Borger since 1994, so this is what I focus on, our water, wastewater, solid waste studies. Next, please. So the scope of services vanished, okay. Okay. Let me just tell you, from the scope of services, what we were, it's still gone. Are the other slides there? Okay, well, we've got those. Well, let me just walk through very briefly. What we're doing with regard to the scope of services is we're conducting a comprehensive cost service study. So we want to know what all of your operating costs, capital costs are for each of the 3 utilities. We developed a 5-year revenue requirement, and it's for fiscal years 2023 through 2027, so you have a 5-year forecast. In addition, we looked at and talked about what some of the projected projects were, capital projects, as far as with the growth that's occurring, so we've looked at those. And so then based on that, we forecast and we look at what is the status of, with current rates, are the utilities over-recovering, under-recovering, do you have to raise rates? Again, fortunately, the utility's in really good shape. There are some limited rate increases that we would recommend. What I want to do next is define what the revenue requirement is. So when we talk about establishing a revenue requirement for the water utility, wastewater, and solid waste, it's basically, we're taking the city's budget, so you're taking all your salaries, your O&M, and then we're looking at your capital costs. So cash capital outlays, if you're recovering money through rates and setting that aside to fund projects on a cash basis, or if you're going to be issuing projects with debt. In this cost service study, we've got 2 bond issues that are projected. I'll mention we spent a lot of time with staff discussing the future capital projects. There's a lot of growth occurring within the city. It's always, as you look out, where it's going to be, to what magnitude, that gets hard to forecast and have it exactly right. We oftentimes will work with the data that's given by the engineering firms. And one thing I'll guarantee, we put together a 5-year plan, and I guarantee there's going to be something that moves. It's going to be a bigger project, smaller project, different timing. The most important thing with these types of studies is it starts laying out a game plan, saying if we go down this path, what are we looking at as far as for future rates? So let me just jump into this slide. And bottom line, what we're forecasting for the water utility in fiscal year 2023, the total revenue requirement's approximately $5.2 million, and it'll grow to about $7.1 million by fiscal year 2027. That is due primarily to the forecasting, projecting of 2 bond issues that would occur. One was a $10 million bond issue, and another one was $23 million for elevated storage tanks, transmission lines, and future growth in certain parts of the city. The wastewater net revenue requirement's about 1.6 million and grows to about 1.9 million, or just under $2 million. Again, a lot of the capital, there's capital related to the wastewater, but the majority is related to the water utility. Next slide, please. So if you're looking at these, at the over-under recovery, and I'm just going to focus on well, I'll take the water first. Right now, if you look at the 3rd line, the water utility is over-recovering a little over $600,000 a year, which is a good thing. The utility's in good shape. You've got growth that's going to be occurring, so
That's a really good thing. It starts to go negative, and again, this is at current rates. It starts to go negative in fiscal year 2026, and that is primarily because of the bond issue, the $23 million bond issue that's budgeted and forecasted. The wastewater is in real good shape. It's over recovering $960,000 in fiscal, or projected at current levels, fiscal year 2023. And then it goes down slightly by fiscal year 2027 to about $700,000. These over recoveries are really a good thing to have right now, because those are monies that can be set aside to fund future capital projects, to avoid future rate increases or large rate increases. I'll just say anecdotally, I'm working with numerous clients, and I'll give you an example. Thursday evening, I'm at a water system in Central Texas. They're getting ready to spend $120 million for water rights and a 36-inch water line, and their rates for their retail and wholesale customers are going up like over 30%. So you're in a really good situation here, because we're seeing rates go up everywhere in the state. Next slide, please. So these are your current rates. I'll just touch on briefly. Again, the monthly minimum bills right now for all of your waters at $30.35. You do have an inclining block rate structure. One of the things that we talked about and recommended is increasing the tiers 4 through 6, so there's a bigger increase. When you have an increase for the 20,000 to 35,000 gallons at $6.44, and then the next block's only 20 cents more, that's really not when you have an inclining block rate, you want to have larger gaps, jumps, because it sends pricing signals so people don't use as much water. So that's one of the recommendations we have in the study. And then the wastewater, you have your current rates where they're fixed fees based on how much water. If you're a residential customer, you all pay the same at $28.35. The commercial have 4 different classes. Then with the education or the schools, colleges, those are on a volumetric rate. Next slide, please. So bottom line, with regard to water rates, we put together 2 scenarios. And again, the really good thing for all 3 of these utilities, we are recommending modest rate increases. You don't have to have significant ones, which is really good. So on the water side, we have 2 scenarios that we've put forward to you. So the first scenario, what we're recommending is just a 10-cent annual increase in the volumetric rates starting in fiscal year 25 through 27. So you can see that. The other blocks, they increase a little bit more because you're doing it on a percentage of what the volumetric rate is. So those go up about 12, 13, 15 cents. So very modest increase. In that scenario, we also would recommend that the bulk rates be increased modestly so they're consistent with the highest tier, for 50,000 gallons. That's the first scenario. Next slide, please. For the second scenario, one of the things we looked at is your minimum charge is the same for, and this is probably one of the most important things we wanted to share with you. Your minimum charge is the same for all meter connections, regardless of the size of the meter. Most utilities typically have, as the meters get larger, the minimum charge increases. And the reason for that, the meters can proportionally take much more water, and the city has to have storage. It has to have pipes that are big enough to carry the water. Those larger customers with larger meters, whether they take the water or not with that meter, they have the capability to draw down significantly on the water system, which has to be sized to meet those. So for instance, and I'll just give you an example, and the factors we have up here are from the American Water Works Association, AWWA. We use these when we do these types of studies. But if you look at the factors, so a 5/8 inch meter, you're gonna have a standard minimum charge. If you go to a 3-inch meter, a 3-inch meter can take 14 times more water than a 5/8 inch meter. If you go up to a 6-inch meter, they can take 50 times more water because of the size of the meter. So what we're recommending is that the minimum charges be adjusted so that they are at that multiplier. So for instance, if, and I'll take the easiest one, 1.5 inch meter, it takes 4 times. So what we would recommend is and we're recommending a 10-year period to phase this in, so it's a very long period of time. The minimum charge for the 5/8 inch meter is $30, so we're recommending the, for instance, as an example, the 1.5 inch meter that can take 4 times, it be phased up to $120 over a 10-year period, okay? This is very standard and common in the water industry. That's one of our key recommendations. Also, I would mention, you don't have a lot of those meters in that 3 to 6 inch meter area or class, so there aren't a lot there, but you're moving in the right direction. Next slide, please. Then the final recommendation, along with going to phasing in the increase in the minimum charges, we would recommend in fiscal year 2025 that you increase at a 10% level the blocks 4 through 6. So you can see where you're at $6.27 in fiscal year 2025. We're recommending a 10% increase, so it's jumping to $6.90. And then $6.90, if you take 10%, that's 69 cents. That gets you to $7.59. We're increasing those blocks, so those folks that use more water start paying more for that. You've got limited water, and you've got to use it wisely, and you want to encourage conservation to the extent possible. Next slide, please. On the wastewater, this is real easy. We're not recommending any rate increases on the wastewater side, so you're in real good shape there. Next slide. So bottom line, and I'll just focus on the 2 bottom lines. You can see that the utility is over recovering in fiscal year 2023. Again, those are monies that can be set aside. So they can be you have cash available to fund future capital projects. I would say if you look at fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027, you can see that cumulatively they are negative. In fiscal year 2026, you're projected to under recover $266,000. I am not recommending you make more changes to the rates than we're already recommending. You have capital projects out there we've estimated, forecasted, but they're preliminary estimates. Things are gonna move. So if a project's a little slower, you actually may be over recovering at that point. We put this out. This is something for you to measure against and use as you go forward. Next slide, please. And this is the key thing, and we've got average bills. This is what always when we're doing a cost service study, elected officials always say, well, what's it mean for the average customer? So if you look at the average residential bill under scenario 1, and this is for a customer that's using 7,500 gallons of water, you can see their bill does not go up in fiscal year 23 or 24, and it goes up 55 cents a month. It's less than 1%. Y'all know what inflation's doing, so that's a pretty good deal there. The next scenario, please. This shows the over recovery. Remember on the scenario 1, I mentioned that you were going slightly negative on the cumulative basis for fiscal year 26 and 27. If you look at the bottom, you see the $97,000 over recovery and then the $394,000. One of the primary reasons you're able to generate that additional revenue is because we're phasing in that minimum charge increase. That's generating the money that keeps it overall positive. Next slide, please. And again, under second scenario, for the average customer with 7,500 gallons of consumption, there is actually no increase if they have a 5/8 or a 3/4 inch meter. I will tell you, you have some residential accounts that have 1-inch meters. And so if you go to this, you'll be phasing in an increase on those meters, but that's a very large meter. Typically, folks have several acres that they're irrigating when you have a 1-inch or a 1.5-inch meter. And again, there are specific rules set out that by the state that you have to have capacity to serve those customers. So this is a standard method in adjusting the minimum charge. Next slide, please. On the solid waste, I'm gonna go through this one fairly quickly. If you go to the next one, please. These are just all the services you provide. A lot of times, you know, people just take for granted the garbage gets picked up and it goes away. But you're picking up garbage. You have the contract with landfill, with Republic, brush and bulky collection, recycling drop-off, and a number of these other services. Next slide, please. This utility, much smaller revenue requirement. It's at about 1.4 million, and it grows to about just under 1.6 million. I will mention one of the things we did here, we spend time, whenever we do these studies, we look at all your rolling stock. So we look at your frontline equipment, and we look at what's the useful life. And then we amortize that and budget for that in the capital improvement plan. So for instance, if you have a $300,000 garbage truck that's got a useful life of 6 years, we're budgeting $50,000 a year, setting that aside in this capital plan for all the equipment so you can fund the replacement of equipment on a regular basis. Next slide, please. So that ended up a little different. Actually, this was a breakdown of the cost of service study, or I'm sorry, the solid waste, the $1.5 million. It's in the report. The key thing I would just mention, obviously, your primary costs are the residential trash collection, the dumpsters, and then your contract with Republic. Oh, yeah.
You could mention those.
Yeah, so those were the numbers we had on the prior slide, where again, overall, you're going from about 1.4 million and you're gonna be up to 1.6 million. It's a very modest growth. Next slide, please. So bottom line, when you look at the over-under recovery, again, the solid waste utility overall is in very good shape. It's over recovering about if you look at the bottom line, about $700,000 a year. That again can then be used to fund projects on a cash basis. If you look at, I'll just go here. This line here, the commercial collection, you can see it's under recovering about 120,000. We are not recommending an increase in the residential rates for the next 5 years for solid waste. We are recommending some adjustments on the dumpster rates for the commercial businesses. Oftentimes when we come in, we'll find that the smaller once-a-week dumpsters, you tend to be under recovering, and then the larger dumpsters, the dumpsters that are picked up more frequently, you tend to be recovering your costs, and that's what we found here. So what we're recommending, if you go to the next slide, what we're recommending is in fiscal year 2024, again, no rate increase for the residential customers, a 5% rate increase for the commercial customers. In fiscal year 2025, a 5% increase on those dumpsters where the collection is ranging from 3 cubic yards to 11 cubic yards per your rate ordinance. And then in fiscal years 26 and 27, an additional 5% rate increase. And I won't bore you with it all, but how we come up with that, we break out, we go look at the total number of collections. We look at what all your costs are. We break out and come up with how many collection stops you make, the total cost per collection, and then the cubic yards of garbage that's picked up in the dumpsters. And we come up with the disposal cost per cubic yard basis. It's a big algebra formula. And my dad was right when he said I study algebra in high school, because I use it right there. So that's it. Let me go to that slide. And so we've got the over recovery. And here's the key thing. You can see your commercial, where it was under 119,000, it gets to an under recovery of about 47,000 by fiscal year 2027. So it's moving in the right direction. Next slide, please. And that's everything I have. So overall, the utility's in good financial shape. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Dave, I've got a couple. Table 3.5, and I think the proposed in scenario 2 on the rates, and you know, I would personally agree. I think that's good that, you know, those rates go up in the higher tiers, and we talked about, you know, incentives to conserve water over time to do it on that end. But the previous, the scenario 1, has the rates phased in over, looks like to me, more years. This one, I could sure see some sticker shock in that year 3, wondering if we wouldn't be better off those same rate increases, maybe starting them a year earlier, or that's a big jump in that 1 year.
And you're looking at table 3-5 in the report. Yeah, you know, you could do that. Here's one of the reasons why, I mean, you can do anything you want as far as from a policy standpoint. One of the reasons I'm personally not too concerned about that is where that kicks in is for those users that are using 20,000 gallons of water or more. And so those are large water users. Your average is around 7,000 gallons. And so we want to make sure we're putting those increases on those larger water users. So when you go to 50, you know, go to that 50-cent increase, if you've got 10, if I'm using 17,000 gallons, or no, 10,000 in that billing unit category, so it'd be about 30,000 gallons. That's a lot of water, and then my rate goes up the increase is $5 above what, you know, the normal rates are. $5 for 30,000, you know, a $5 increase for 30,000 gallons, that's a lot of water. And I don't think that pricing signal's too severe personally, what we're seeing.
I guess bottom line is, politically, we can talk about that. We could split that increase up into a couple of years.
Yeah, to be clear, you folks, this is our recommendation, and you could do whatever you want from that standpoint. Yes.
I mean, if it's for conservation, like you say, why are we waiting to year 3?
Pardon?
If it's for conservation, like you say it is, why would we wait that long?
Yeah, you know, one of the things we did, fiscal year 23, we're in this period. One of the things we did, you could do it sooner, but because the utility's in pretty good shape, you know, financially, we're doing the rate increases out, you know, starting in 24, 25. If you wanted to do them sooner, you absolutely could. Let me tell you, when we have clients where they're under recovering, they're issuing debt, and they're under recovering $2 million a year, $3 million a year. And with those folks, we're working with them, and they're having rate increases, significant rate increases starting immediately. You have the luxury of, you're in a pretty good shape. You're in very good shape financially. That's why I pushed it out. You could start it earlier if you wanted.
typically speaking, if someone's using 30,000 gallons of water a month, are they above the one inch line?
No, you can use 30,000 gallons. Unfortunately, my wife's an example of that. You can, on our 5/8 inch meter, and Austin has very high rates, you can get 35,000 gallons, no problem.
These rates compared to yours.
Oh, mine are, you guys have it good. I'm over $10 at like 15,000 gallons. We started planting some drought-resistant stuff. Anyhow.
You and your wife?
Yeah.
You know, personally, we've done the same. We've taken out sprinkler heads over the last little bit, and it's, you know, and there's an economic incentive too.
Yeah. So, one of the things we always talk about when it comes to rate design, because your utility, when we have a utility that's under recovering, losing money, it's pretty clear how you have to raise rates. When you're in the position you are, there's a lot of different ways you could go. You could start it sooner and do smaller blocks, that's fine. It's almost an infinite number of different ways you can do it, so.
Another question I had on this same schedule is the education rate. You know, we're proud of our school district here, but at the same time, you know, they're not supplementing, you know, our taxpayers on the city side, and you know, I just wonder if that rate, you know, just looking at the rate chart period, you know, I wonder if it shouldn't be closer to a rate, say in that 8,000 to 20,000 gallon range.
Yeah.
What's been your experience on those, Dave?
Yeah, so when you get to the education, and first of all, from a cost of service standpoint, the $5.20, it's pretty good from a cost of service standpoint. So, you know, that's a pretty good size rate. Typically with schools, we have some folks that they'll offer, you know, a discount, you know, for them. A lot of times, you know, most folks are like, they're moving towards where, look, that's the school district, we're the city, they're two different quasi-governmental entities, or right terminology there. So everybody's gotta pay their fair share. And, you know, in Austin, in a lot of places, they don't cut deals for the school districts. At $5.20 and how they use their water, that rate looks reasonable, and from a cost standpoint, you're in good shape. That's one of the reasons we didn't raise it. And if you were under recovering significantly, you might want to look at raising it, but from a cost standpoint and where you are with them, that's why we didn't raise it more.
Did we change, do you remind me, did we change their meter size, base rates?
Yeah, their meters will change.
Okay, so the base rates will change
Yeah.
with the meter, but not necessarily the volumetric. So they'll be in that previous chart, Mr. Mayor, on the meter size.
3-4.
3-4, thank you, Cody.
Yeah, and to be
3-4.
clear, there are 49, I believe it was 49 education meters that we had. So and that's a good point. The minimum charges will increase over time, but the volumetric rate, you know, it's pretty good at 520.
So they have almost 50. How many of those do you know of that are over 4 or 6 inches?
Dan or
Ballpark.
Lee or Eric might be able to answer that the best.
Yeah, they're gonna be, you know.
How many over what, Cody?
4 or 6.
What are most of the schools, Eric?
All the older schools are 4 and 6.
Say that again?
All the older schools are 4 and 6, the new ones have gone to 2 inch.
Okay. Older schools 4 and 6.
Yeah.
WT is all 6 inch.
Yep, so if you look at the education meters, if you have a copy of the report, or you can just make a note, if you go to Schedule 8B, as in boy, in the back of the report, page 1 of 3, just scribble that down. Again, Schedule 8B, page 1 of 3. In the middle is a listing of the education meters. by size. And to that point, there are 9 6-inch, you've got 11 4-inch, 6 3-inch, 13 2-inch, and then a handful of smaller ones.
And when you call those education, you're not including WT there?
Yes, it's included in
Yeah, it's all education.
CISD and West Texas.
Well, that meter bill, is that yearly, monthly?
Monthly.
So the meter size, 6 inches every month, it's whatever that is.
That's correct. It's a monthly,
That's the flat rate, and you get, what, 2,000 gallons with that up to.
And where, generally speaking, are most of our 5/8?
Homes.
yeah.
But all homes are 5/8, or is there a general area?
Yeah, older homes, no, most of the newer homes are 3/4 to 1.
You've got 2,000 1-inch residential meters. If I'm looking, you got 5/8, 3/4, you got about a little over 3,000 and about 2,000 1-inch. And you've got about 80, 90 that are 1.5 inches. You got a few 2 inches there.
There's education, it's on PF. Yeah, I got it. Yep. I think let's list them all. Sorry, Gary, we may not have answered your question. I'm going back to the education rate.
You know, yeah, and at what level are we subsidizing, you know, and, you know, I had school board members saying, didn't think they needed to subsidize us. You know, it probably needs to work both directions. I mean, we want to be good partners, but at the same time, you know, we want to take care of the consumer side too. So I think that's a piece we need to feel comfortable with. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
If you phase in over 10 years, and that's the other thing, you're giving them plenty of time with the minimum charges. You're increasing those over 10 years for those 47 meters, and you got the 520 per 1,000 gallons. That's covering the cost then.
Any other thoughts? No, there's a lot of information consumption on this, so. Your staff, put a lot of effort into this, over the last 12 months. Lee and Dan and Sarah and Eric and John and all the whole crew, so it's kind of an all hands on deck. But I think tonight, our plan is just to have the commission officially, accept it. It's not an approval, just accept the report as received. We would like to do a little bit of stakeholder meetings with the public and allow written comments to get this out over the next couple months. And then we would probably hopefully bring it back next month to answer any of y'all's questions formally. Or we are more than happy to schedule those conversations with you individually, and we will share those answers with the full commission. So those questions that come in will be shared with the whole commission, so everybody's getting that information at once. And then possible adoption of the study on, acceptance of the study on March 6th, commission meeting on March 6th. In turn, this, if everybody's good, we'll move forward with using these recommendations for the new fees and service when we get around to budget time. So you will still set the fees and rate schedule each year with the budget like we do. So just so everybody knows, you'll still do that, but this is what we'll use to propose with. And we'll use a lot of this to, for Joel and I and Bo to do some budgeting and numbers. We will use this a lot. I will suggest you can look a lot of the capital infrastructure that Dave mentioned. That is
Schedule 2.
Schedule 2 that I think I just went past. Yeah, I think I'm missing.
Yeah, you gotta keep going. Yep, up a little more, you're on debt. Yep, there you go. Hey, go up to the next
Oh,
one.
you're almost there.
There you go.
There's quite a few CIP projects we put in here. This is kind of my best, gut scenario. Bo is still in the process of finalizing the ranking. So there's quite a few on the water side there, and there's some on the sewer. The one sewer one we haven't really talked about a lot is expansion of the wastewater plant. That is definitely on the radar. That's not on here, but things can be adapted as Dave indicated. So please make sure to take a look at this list.
And I think this is the key thing when we do this with clients is a lot of time was spent in conversations with city staff about these capital projects. And when you have growth in different areas, you know on your infrastructure, okay, hey, we've got to replace this transmission, this water line, it's 80 years old, it's leaking all the time, those things. But then as it comes to planning growth or where you're planning your next storage, the important thing is getting some numbers in so you can start looking and saying, what does this mean potentially from a cost standpoint? And you may not have all the details down, but it gives you a target to shoot at from a budgeting and planning standpoint, which is critical.
And another comment too, and I think table 3.8, but when those capital items hit and those expenditures, that utility over, under, there's not the surplus at that point. And we're using that right now to fund transfers to the general and Gulf Fund. And we're either gonna have to raise taxes or we're gonna have to, the rates are gonna have to go up. Something's gonna have to give there. So.
What did you said, what graph was that you just said?
Table 3A. It's on my page 30.
Are you talking to Gary or me?
So if you look at the over-under, starts out at 1,600,000 over, and in 2026, it drops to 97,000.
Gotcha.
So, bottom line, we're gonna have to figure out something on the transfer piece or what that looks like. So if we went that direction, if we did the capital improvements without raising fees more, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Joe?
No, Joel, Lee.
Well, thank you. Some good information.
Motion to accept the report.
Yes, yeah, we entertain a motion just to accept the report right now, not that we're moving this direction.
Correct.
Just to accept the report.
Motion that we accept the report as presented.
Second. Have a motion to accept the report as presented along with the second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right. Yeah, thank you, Dave, but thank you to the city staff too. I know a lot of work, time went into that project. All right, takes us to item number 11, presentation of the Canyon Area Library Annual Report.
The eagerly anticipated library.
That's
report.
exactly right.
Very good.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to come and tell you a little bit about what we are doing at the library. I started in April as the new director, so I've been there for about 9 months now, and I feel like I was very lucky. I inherited a really good situation. The staff is wonderful, and they were already doing a lot of really great things. So hopefully I've been able to come in and just kind of bring a fresh perspective, some new ideas to support what they were already doing. I'll start by reading our mission statement just so you have an idea of exactly what it is we're trying to do. The Canyon Area Library strives to support the community by providing lifelong learning opportunities and promoting a love of reading through the maintenance of a well-rounded collection of materials in various formats and offering a wide range of services designed to engage, inspire, and inform. Okay, a couple of interesting numbers, I think. Total patron number is the number of people who have a library card. So that is at 8,691. And just so you know, we don't only serve the city of Canyon, we are the Canyon Area Library, so we are also serving those people who live in Randall County that are not Amarillo residents. So it's more than just Canyon, but if you just look at the Canyon numbers, that's around half of the people that live in Canyon that have a library card. New cards this year, we got 894 new patrons. Patron visits, that is the number of people that actually kind of come through the door to visit the library, so that's at 32,000. Total circulations is how many things actually go out of the library and go home with people, and that's at about 49,186. Computer uses, we have 9 desktops in the library, and that's people using that. That doesn't include people that use our Wi-Fi that bring their own computers in. Items in the collection, we have about 34,346 items, and we had 543 volunteer hours last year. So we've got quite a few people that help us out and come to the library pretty regularly. So the next one, these are just some things that we have done in the last 9 months. We did a really big weeding project. This is something that we talk about in the library world, but we removed almost 10,000 books that had not checked out in the past 5 years. So we can run a report and figure out if books are checking out or not. And so we did that, and there are a lot of books in the library that had not gone out in the last 5 years. So we decided that it would be best to make extra space for new books. So we removed those from the collection. We've reorganized the library space. We've moved furniture. We've rearranged the shelves. We've actually pretty much moved every single book in the adult section to a different place in the library. So we've done a lot. The desktop computers, when I started, we had 18 of them. We've taken that down to 9. We've never really had that many people using them at once, and it's freed up some space for some furniture that we've ordered that's going to be coming in soon. We have 26 laptops and 10 tablets now that are available for people to use in the library, and they can also check those out and take them home. We got those last year. They got it through a grant, and those are ready to go. We have new items for checkout. We kind of have some new collections. We are checking out now cake pans, cookie cutters, decorating kits. We actually have a ukulele that we just bought. So this is kind of a new trend in libraries where people check out things besides books. So we started that, and we're trying to create a more welcoming space. We've ordered some soft seating that should be in hopefully at the end of January. We have some new display fixtures. So the next slide has some pictures. The top right is the cake pan, so those hang in the library right at the front. And people seem to be very excited. Like, they do check them out, and they come back, and they take them home, and they make some cakes with their kids, so it's kind of a fun thing to do. We have some end cap displays. So these are just slats that go on the end of the bookshelves, but it allows us to display books, and our staff gets really excited. Every month we have a new theme, and each of our staff members takes one of them, and we sometimes have a contest, and they have fun doing that. But it just helps people see what books we have, because I feel like if all the books are just lined up on the shelf, nobody really knows what you have to offer. So the more display space we have, I think the better. We got some cool spinners for the paperback collection. So those are now kind of in the middle of the library on a spinner. We have a new book display where we put all of our new books. And the exciting thing about that is that we have to refill it several times a day. So people come in, and that means they're taking books off of that display, and they're taking them home. So that's kind of the purpose of these displays, and it seems to be working. And then we've gotten, this is a cafe table. We have a couple of those with some cafe chairs back by the windows. And we've ordered, on the next slide I'll show you, we've ordered a bunch of new furniture that should be coming in. It's supposed to ship on January 19th, so hopefully it'll be coming in this month. But we have some couches, we have some ottomans, some soft chairs. The bottom right-hand corner is kind of the fabric samples of what we're gonna get. So I think we've ordered a total of 8 new chairs and 2 couches with an ottoman. So hopefully it's gonna just create a space where people wanna come and hang out and read books, and they'll spend a little bit more time there rather than just coming in and getting their stuff and going home. So besides the books that we offer a lot of programs. So last year there were 240 programs with an attendance of 5,487 people. So most of the programs, I'm going to say, are kids programs, and we have things that we offer every week for story time and for moms to bring their usually preschool kids to come in. Storytime, Munchkins in Motion, sensory storytime, we started that this year, and that is for children with sensory issues. So sometimes the library the storytime can be kind of a loud, rambunctious place, so some of those children don't want to come, so we have a special storytime meant for them. We have the 1, 2, 3 Play With Me we are a family place library, so we do early education, and twice a year we have programs for 5 weeks in a row, and we invite like professionals, maybe a speech therapist or a dentist, to come in and talk to those parents. And then we sometimes just do something special, like our Christmas extravaganza. We did that. We had Santa come, we did pictures, we did crafts, we read Christmas stories. We had over 100 people that came to that last month, so. Teens and tweens, that's kind of our hardest demographic to get to come to the library, but we do have a program every month for them. We bought some virtual reality headsets, so we're gonna have a game night this month and let them play with those, which hopefully will be fun. We do a program called First Chapter Friday, where every Friday from 4 to 5, we read the first chapter of a book to some school, it's more like upper elementary age kids. We have a Dungeons and Dragons program that started this is the first Saturday of every month, and it's been really popular. You have to sign up, and we only take 10 people, and it's ages 12 and up, but last week we had 9 out of the 10 that could come, so they seem to be having a lot of fun with that. And we do adult programming. We have a Medicare program that's once a month. We do ESL classes for people learning English. We have a book club. We've partnered with the Master Gardeners of Randall County to do a seed library. So we actually have packets of seeds that people can come in and take out and take those home and grow seeds. Then we do occasional, just special things. We did a cake decorating demonstration with the cake company a couple months ago. That was pretty fun. Summer reading is our biggest program every year. We always get a theme that's kind of given to us. It's like a statewide thing. Last year was Oceans of Possibilities. We had 898 total people sign up for the summer reading. We do programs. We do story time in the park. We partnered with the museum. We did story time at the museum. We did cookie decorating. Cookie decorating was actually our most popular program. We had over 300 people that came to decorate cookies this summer. So there's this pool party at the end. So that's kind of our biggest community-wide program that we do. And then we also offer services. So copiers, we can use our copier, printer, 15 cents a page. You can do mobile printing, and we have a fax machine, so $2 for the first page, $1 for additional pages. We do 3D printing. You have to pay for the material and the printing time, so we have a little formula, 0.03 meters plus 0.04 minutes. That's how we kind of figure out how much we charge for that. But those are the only things that we charge for. Everything else that we do at the library is free. So we have the 9 desktops, 26 laptops, 10 tablets for people to come use computers. We have a chat with a librarian feature on our website, so people can chat with us in real time. If they have a question, we can hop on and chat with them about that. We do have 2 mobile book apps. We check out books on apps through Cloud Library and through Hoopla. Last month, we had, Cloud Library had about 200 checkouts, and Hoopla had about 600. So about 800 checkouts just in addition to what we do in the library. People can do that online on their phones. We offer databases for research. We have interlibrary loans. So if we don't have a book somebody wants, we can get it from another library. They ship it in, and we let them check it out, and then they bring it back. And Andrea recently became a notary public, so we do that for free as well. So we have a lot of things besides books going on at the library. The last slide just says that we celebrated our 20 years in the current building this year in May, and we're really proud of what we're doing, and we're excited about what's going on in the future.
Hoopla, talk a little bit about what you can get on Hoopla.
Hoopla, you can download audiobooks, you can download TV shows, movies, so it's not just books, you can do entertainment. And they're limited, I think they get 5 checkouts a month. Hoopla is something that we pay for, so every checkout costs us some money, so that's why we limit it to 5, but it's really popular. Amarillo doesn't offer it. We're kind of one of the libraries in the area that does. We have people that want to sign up. We had a guy from Lubbock that called to ask if he could get a card with us just because he wanted to use our Hoopla. It's $15 to get a card if you live out of city, but that's still a pretty good deal to be able to check out those books. So it's something that people really like. There's a lot of people I think that never set foot in the library, but they're still using our services because they're downloading things, they're reading books online, they're using their computers. So it's pretty valuable. I think that's kind of the future of the library. We'll always have people that want to read real books, but people too are using the library in different ways. So,
If you downloaded Hoopla.
I have not personally done that, but I'm well aware of that. I know that there's a lot of checkouts. It was one of the things that through COVID was a blessing for us to have, because we had people didn't want to get out or whatever. They were on Hoopla. Our usage went up dramatically on Hoopla, and all those people haven't bailed out of Hoopla either. Now they found Hoopla, so they continue to use that, which is just another service. And just like the cake pans, it's just something different. It's another reason to come to the library. It's another resource, and I think libraries have always been resources. And today we need to find more things to be a recess for. I mean, so we're a resource, so we're doing that. We're finding those ways to continue to be relevant. And thanks for all the great programming and stuff we get from everybody. And really a lot of usage.
All right. Any questions? Okay.
Andrea, I don't believe those cake pans really work. I'm gonna have to see some evidence of that.
Absolutely.
Who's on the operator?
But the ukulele.
I mean, if you want a cake and a ukulele at the same time, I'd be down for that. Be cool.
All right, thank you all. That takes us to item number 12, presentation of Palo Creek Golf Course Annual Report. Casey?
Good evening. I wasn't aware we could do slides, or else, there's no telling what y'all could have done.
Yeah.
PowerPoint from us.
PowerPoint from us. I apologize. Apologize for the lack of presentation. So,
But I'm sure your enthusiasm and energy will
there you
overcome
go.
that.
Something we're all looking forward to is this
I know
right here.
Let me move
So-
to the edge of my seat, thank you.
Fiscal year 2022 was pretty good for the golf course. John and his crew did a really good job. It was droughty all year. We finally got some rain towards the end of, or the first week of August. That really helped save some turf around the golf course. I'll just kind of highlight, hopefully y'all read all of this. But we redecked our bridges on the front nine. We had to repair and replace some concrete work on the entrance of our cart barn. It was getting kind of dangerous right there, so we did some of that. New irrigation around number 12 green. Trees were removed and trimmed on several holes. 32 tree stumps were removed. We renovated and seeded new turf areas on 1, 8, 12, and 15 greens in the right side of 14. And also on 12T, we made a new expanded, renovated, and seeded a tee box there on 12. The wind storms blew down some of our netting around the range tee. John did an excellent job of replacing and fixing that. And then we also constructed a new materials holding bin behind the maintenance building as well. So Lass, our celebrity goose dog, she's kept the domestic geese population under 5 for this last year. So she's doing an awesome job. On my side, the course operations, we were up 3% from last year with a total of 31,462 rounds being played. Previous year, we were up 17%, so we're still trending up. We hosted 43 events, mostly all charitable scrambles. We had 8 high school tournaments, including our Region 1-2A championship, co-hosted with WT when they host their regional stuff. 4 NTPGA junior events and 18 Thursday night scrambles. We also had 73 PGA junior leaguers this summer. So that was a lot of fun if you saw me being a little ragged this summer. We had 73 of those little guys hanging around. Our sales were all up in the golf shop and in the grill. And kind of the highlight of the year was this is our first year collecting and setting aside money for our irrigation project. So we collected approximately $124,000 towards that. We went up last week, starting January 1. We went up $3 on all our green fees. So now a total of $8 per green fee will be going into that fund, as well as $100 per permit and $25 for the additional permits. So, and then next year, we're gonna go up another $2 on that. So that'll be $10 total into that capital improvement fund. So we're hoping this next year we'll have about $160,000 added to that. We've already filled up our calendars. I'm getting calls, just missed one while ago for another tournament. We're full. I'll do what I can. And then our new carts, hopefully April, probably May,
They've been ordered.
could be June. Yeah, so hopefully the sooner the better on that. And then once again, we'll be hosting the Region 1, 2A championships this year. So any questions?
I think 31,462 is a lot of rounds.
Yeah, it's a lot of rounds. It's a lot of rounds. I don't think we'll get there yet.
And we had discussions and continue discussions for the irrigation plan and the card barn plan. Gary, you're well aware of the card barn, we toured it 12 years ago, probably.
Hadn't changed.
It-
Well,
yes.
started to do this.
So we're well down that road. Adolfo's been helping us with that on getting some estimates.
Well, we're talking about that. Is there a way to design a new one where I do like the low profile? You don't have a big metal building there in the middle of, golf course.
We hope
Is
to
there a
go
way
back in the same
design that
place. We hope to go back in the same place.
Where it keeps kind of a profile like that.
Yes.
I think we're trying to change.
We don't have land to put it somewhere else, Gary.
Yeah, we don't
It'll
have,
go
any-
right
so,
back there.
yeah, the way that it sits is probably gonna be the ideal way to design it as well, because maybe with a little bit more pitch to it so that water doesn't sit at
Were
the
you
top.
thinking we were gonna move it or?
Yeah, I didn't know if we might move it and put it.
No, we don't have anywhere to
We
put
don't have
it.
anywhere to go. We don't have anywhere to go.
It's gotta go back
I
there.
think the functionality is still pretty decent right there, pulling in and out.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll get that going. You'll see some more information on that in the next few months related to the golf course. Because we hope to, in the fall of '24, Joel?
Yes. So that CIP revenue is accumulating in the CIP fund. And we hope to have enough in there by 24, 25 fiscal year to issue debt and to be able to begin servicing it with that accumulated CIP and then the continuing CIP revenue that we get annually from that.
And the restroom on the front nine is in that piece too, is that right?
Right now, it's on the list. The
It's
two
on the
main
list.
priority is irrigation and then, God willing, the card
Card
barn.
barn. We'll see what we can, we'll
Those
see
are
what we can
top two.
afford.
So it's not quite, it cannot outweigh those two items at this point, Gary. It's hard to have a
Women
barn.
would love to have something besides a porta potty there.
Some men would too.
So,
Yeah, no, you're right, but it's in
We'll see
levels
what we
of
can-
It would look
importance.
better coming into Kenyon if you didn't have a porta potty right there too. So,
when we get there, we'll know what we can afford to do. And
Yeah.
you all will know and you'll help us make those decisions.
There'll be a debt issuance on that. So I mean, it'll be 3 to 5 million debt issuance, and that's what we're thinking, right, Joel? 5 million. So
We haven't done a
We're working on it.
amortization.
Bo and Joel are doing cost or revenue projections on that as we speak.
So Casey, you said you don't think we'll hit that number of rounds again?
No, because, well, I can tell you in November, we were already way lower than we were last November, just based on weather. So last year's weather was really good all year long for golfing. So, I mean, well, it was dry, but that doesn't keep golfers from coming out. So, but when it was windy and cold in 2 weeks in November and then big cold snap in December. So we're already way behind. Well, not way, I don't want to say way behind, but we're behind from where we were even last year. So yeah, that's a bunch.
And we'll play the most 18 holes in the area. Tascosa will play more than us.
Correct.
Through COVID, they kicked back up and they'll play more. But other than that, we'll play the most rounds of golf on an 18-hole golf course.
Per 18 holes.
Or if you take the two Amarillo courses, if you have 36 on them, and if you combine those two, that will be more than our 18. But if you took them individually as 18s, we will exceed them significantly.
I should have that probably by the end of the week, and I'll share it.
Okay.
So
We'll push that out. We get the annual report from Amarillo, which really is a wonderful thing that
Yeah, it's
George
nice.
puts out for us, because we see the numbers from every golf course. And he goes back to 94 or 95, so we really get a good perspective of where things are going and where things have been.
That'd be good information.
You'll be hearing from them sooner. on this capital improvement.
Well, thank you. I know it was a busy year and a lot of hard work and did a great job in a dry year too. That golf course looked good. So,
You did an awesome
a
job.
lot of compliments too. So.
All right. Any other questions? Thanks, Cody.
Thank you. All right, item number 13 is consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 02-2023, a resolution of the City of Canyon, Randall County, Texas, adopting the downtown master plan, providing for savings, repealing considerability clauses, and providing for an effective date. John?
Yes, last month we had Friesen Nichols come and do their presentation and you all accepted that. They had suggested that we go ahead and do a resolution, and Chuck has worked on that. Chuck, it just kind of formalizes this process, is that?
Does, and essentially, memorializes the commission action and reflects that this document will be a guide to future development of the downtown area. And so we're prepared the resolution. We tendered it to the commission to put us on record as having formally taken action on the downtown master plan, so it will be official for future reference.
Yeah, I move that we adopt resolution 2023, 02-2023.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt the downtown master plan. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Very good. Item number 14, consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1169, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, amending the city's budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, as adopted by ordinance number 1142, providing for an increase of expected revenues, expenditures, and transfer of certain funds, providing that prior parts of ordinance number 1142 inconsistent with or in conflict with any of the provisions of this ordinance are hereby expressly repealed to the extent of any such inconsistency or conflict, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Joe?
Thank you. I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining why we need to do this. Again, this is fiscal year 21-22, and at the end of the fiscal year and after we've performed our end of year reconciliations and done our conversions from budget basis accounting to accrual basis accounting, we've changed those balances quite a bit. And so we are going to adjust the budget or amend the budget so that it approximates where we actually ended up with. And if you recall in the annual financial report that you get after the completion of the audit, there's a schedule in there that shows the original budget as it was adopted, the budget as it was amended, and then the final activity, the final actual numbers for the fiscal year. And so this is part of preparing for that schedule that goes in our audited financial statements each year. Also, these amended balances will also go in our annual budget report that we'll be producing here pretty quick, that will have our current fiscal year budget for 22-23, but it has the immediate prior year amended budget as well. And so by making this amendment, it helps those numbers be more meaningful. And it also demonstrates that you as a commission are aware of the differences that came out from the actual activity versus the budgeted activity, and that those variances were approved. So it's accomplishing a number of different things, but those are the main reasons for why we have to do this each year. I've also waited longer this year to do it. I'm just doing hopefully just one budget amendment. I think last year I had to do 3 of these, so I'm just going to do one. I'm not going to go through the details of every line item, but I am going to speak to some of the larger circumstances that required us to make some pretty significant amendments. One of the biggest ones is that we were able to finally completely write off the interfund liability between the utility fund and the general fund and the golf fund. If you recall, the liability from the golf fund to the general fund had gotten up to be over $2 million back in fiscal year 18-19. And since then, we've been trying to knock that down and write that off and adjust it off. We're limited each year based on how much net profit we have in the income statement for each of those funds. Finally, this year, after we got through making all the adjustments for the accrual basis of accounting, we've been able to completely write off that interfund liability from the golf to both of those funds. And our intent going forward is to not let that increase like it did before. We're going to keep those transfers made annually and keep that at a net zero year to year. So we'll stay after that. Also, increases were necessary. Just about every department was affected with an increase in salaries. And I need to explain this. We changed our payroll calendar for salaried employees from being paid right at the end of the pay period. So like for pay period January 1 to January 15th, we used to pay those employees on January 15th for that time. We've since changed that at the beginning of fiscal year 21-22, so that we now pay salaried employees and hourly employees 2 weeks after the fact. So time that's incurred, salaries that are earned January 1 through January 15th, those will not be paid until January 31. And we've been doing that all fiscal year. It didn't change the number of pay periods or payrolls. We still just had 24 payrolls. But we're actually incurring expense for 54 weeks instead of just 52 weeks. And we didn't see that throughout the year on the budget basis, but at the end of the fiscal year, I had to accrue for that last 2 weeks. So we've actually got two more weeks of expense in this fiscal year on our financial statements than what we would have seen otherwise. And that's just a matter of shifting that payroll calendar for salaried employees. Other significant adjustments had to do with increase in fuel costs. Almost every department that has significant fuel usage experienced an overrun on the budget because of increase in oil price. Also, inflation affected several line items, particularly in the water department, where there's a lot of brass. A lot of the components that are purchased there were highly sensitive to the inflation. We also had several adjustments related to delays in equipment delivery. So we had some leases that were supposed to have come online at the beginning of the fiscal year. One in particular is the 3 police interceptors for the police department. We still haven't gotten possession of those, so we're not paying those payments yet. So we amended the budget down for that because we didn't incur that cost yet. Supposedly, we're going to be getting those in the next month or so. Similarly, we had an equipment lease for groundskeeping equipment for the Parks Department. That equipment never did get delivered. It just got delivered last week, so we never incurred that cost in fiscal year 21-22. We just kept using the same old equipment that we'd already finished the lease on. So we've adjusted or amended the budget down for that. There were some other situations such as the outdoor sirens, replacing the outdoor siren system. We incurred significant capital outlay for that. That's under the fire department. That was a $168,000 increase or amendment to the budget. We also had, let's see, try to hit some of the Parks Department had a significant replacement of a light pole out on the baseball complex. That actually affected revenue and expense because we had insurance proceeds that came in from that. And then we also needed to capitalize the cost of that. Overall, we increased expenditures, or amended expenditures to increase for $1.5 million. But fortunately, that's offset by an increase in revenues of, $1.6 million. And let me just kind of touch on some of those lines. Building permits were up 76,000. Our franchise fees were up significantly. XL franchise fees were up about 150,000 due to increased rates, and then also at the same time, we increased that tax rate from 3% to 4.51%. And that was in effect for that full fiscal year 2021-22. Atmos and West Texas Gas, both of those franchise fees were up, and that's mainly due to the price of gas increasing. Sales tax was up $500,000. Some of that's due to our being conservative during the budgeting, but also that just continues, sales tax continues to be up each month, year over year. So October this year was higher than October last year. It just continues each month, thankfully. And then, as I mentioned, the effects of the fund transfers between the funds because of that write-off of the debt between golf and the general fund. In the utility fund, we had some revenue adjustments. Water receipts were about $327,000 higher than what we had budgeted. We also had a development review fee that was $99,000, and that was due to the implementation of the recovery fee for the preliminary development-related engineering costs. Also, we budgeted for the grant revenue of that ARPA tranche coming in, if you recall, that $1.9 million. And we learned after the fact, after we had done this budget, that we needed to account for that as a deferred revenue. And similarly, we also haven't really started to incur those costs yet. So we don't have the expense incurred to offset that revenue. So we won't recognize the revenue on that money for that ARPA program until we begin incurring the expenses on those projects. On the expenses in the utility fund, we increased the transfers out by $665,000. And again, that's to supplement the general fund for the write-off of that interfund liability with golf. Same situation on salaries because of this change in the payroll calendar. The cost of electricity was also up, and we saw this back in the general fund and the streets department for the lights, but also in the utility fund for the operation of water wells. And that's just because of the rates being up higher due to XL's increase in rates due to fuel cost for electricity. We also had some increase in repairs and maintenance, some well expenses, well repair expenses. And then also need to explain two significant adjustments or amendments to the budget, reducing expenses. And this is to convert to the accrual basis, as I mentioned. So we budgeted for cash outflow of $900,000 to purchase the water department's building down on 4th. And for books throughout the year for the budget, we treat that as an expense, but at the end of the year, we account for that as a capital asset, and so we move it to the balance sheet. Similarly, the payment of debt, $1.1 million, is reducing principal. We show that as an expense for budget throughout the year, but we move it to the balance sheet for the financial statements, so we're amending for that. We try to budget for the flow of cash in and out, but we do have to change how that is for the financial statements. That's really all I'm going to touch on in the way of detail, unless you've got specific questions, and I'll try to answer those. But overall, we're increasing the net income of the funds, the general fund, by about $160,000.
Auditors coming.
Auditors will be here 2 weeks from today, the 23rd. I believe it's 2 weeks. I'm almost ready for them, but not quite. I'll have a few late nights between now and then. They'll probably be reporting the first meeting in March. That's what I'm anticipating.
This will be the last write-off of the golf course.
Yes. As I mentioned, we'll maintain that at a net zero going forward. We won't let that accumulate. We've been budgeting, we budget for about a $400,000 to $500,000 interfund transfer to supplement the golf fund each month, or each year, I'm sorry. This write-off is dating back to fiscal year 18-19, so I'm very pleased that we're finally able to get that written off.
I move we adopt ordinance 1169.
Second.
Have a motion second to adopt ordinance number 1169. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Joel, thank you. Appreciate all the hard work. All right, item number 14, consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1169. Excuse me. Item number 15, conduct first public hearing on ordinance number 1168, annexing territory to the city of Canyon as requested by N&B Properties, Inc., an ordinance of the city of Canyon, Texas, annexing the territory herein described to the city of Canyon in Randall County, Texas, extending the boundary limits of the city of Canyon to include the property herein described within the said city limits, and granting to all the inhabitants of said property all the rights and privileges of other citizens, and binding said inhabitants by all the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city. Chuck?
Yes, sir. As the commission may recall, we presented the petition for voluntary annexation by N&B Properties at the last meeting. The commission did accept the petition and adopted an annexation calendar. The annexation calendar provided for dates to publish notice of public hearings and provided for the public hearings we're here on tonight. So at this meeting, no action will be required. We're holding 2 public hearings under separate agenda items in order to move this annexation forward. So item 14 would be the first of those public hearings. I'm sorry, item 15.
So,
Back on 14.
So with that, thank you, Chuck. We will open the public hearing. Did anyone sign in, Gretchen?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Then I think with that, we're able to go to item number 16. Do I need to read it again?
Yes, sir, to be official.
We will conduct second public hearing on ordinance number 1168, annexing territory to the city of Canyon as requested by N&B Properties, Inc., an ordinance of the city of Canyon, Texas, annexing the territory herein described to the city of Canyon in Randall County, Texas, extending the boundary limits of the city of Canyon to include the property herein described within the said city limits, and granting to all the inhabitants of said property all the rights, privileges of other citizens, and binding said inhabitants by all the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city. So Chuck, we're ready to open the public hearing on this.
Mayor, we're ready to open the public hearing. This will be the last required public hearing.
Okay, with that, we'll open the public hearing again.
I'm kidding, nobody signed it.
Gretchen. Terrible. With that, we will close the public hearing. Oh, my gosh. No discussion? And with that, we've completed the public hearings on ordinance number 1168, and we will move to item number 17. Consider and take appropriate action on developers agreement for Crestview Estates. Joe?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. We have reached an agreement mutually with the owners of this property. The memo lists everything out as we discussed at our meeting in November. We weren't able to meet the December meeting, but everything seems to be green lighted. At this point, nothing really different than what we had already discussed on this matter. The final agreements are listed in your memo. I can go over those again if need be, but I think we've hashed this out on multiple occasions, and I think staff's ready to move forward. We would ask that the commission go ahead and allow me the authority to go ahead and move forward and execute this contract. Once that occurs, we'll move forward on solicitation and procurement. Mr. Burns and Mr. Boyer are both already actively working on that. In addition, we will have to do an easement, and Mr. Reese and Mr. Brown, or Kevin Brown, our surveyor, are already actively working on that. So staff is already moving on this, assuming that this is agreed upon by the commission. We do have a signature already from the owner of the property, and we are all ready to move forward.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the plan development agreement for Crestview Estates subdivision and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt the agreement for Crestview Estates. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. And you're abstaining, Paul?
And one abstention.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner. We look forward to this development.
It'll be a good project.
Yeah.
Item number 18, discuss the proposed draft of subdivision regulations. Lucas?
Yes, sir. We're gonna need your height.
So, I hope you've all had a chance to look at these regulations that the city's been working on for 4 years now. I'm here to give a brief overview of what these are, what the contents are of these regulations. We are holding a special meeting next month, on the 6th. Friesen Nichols, who has been working with the city on this project, will at that meeting come in and they'll have a more in-depth presentation. That will be kind of a workshop, more opportunity for the commission to comment, ask questions at that meeting. So that'll be more in depth, but we wanted to make sure you all saw it, had the opportunity to read through it, and kind of see the highlights of it before that meeting. So that's why I'm here tonight. I've got just a few things I want to point out. The real reason we started this project was because our current subdivision regulations have not been updated in several decades. They leave a lot up to the imagination. There's a lot of broad language there that can be used that leaves a lot of specific things to be subjective to whoever is reading them at the time. And so we're trying to take a lot of that ambiguity out, make it a very clear process for developers, for people who want to come in and subdivide land and put lots on it. We want it to be very clear. So our goal is that these new regulations will be something that someone could look at and really understand all the requirements that they need to meet before they come forward with a proposed development. So on the front of your packet, you'll see, I kind of had a special packet printed up for this, just a timeline that John put together of how long the city's been working on this and kind of the major steps. It started 4 years ago this month, is when the city
It's a
signed
handout.
the contract. Yeah, it's a,
You should have that.
the separate handout here. And so 4 years ago is when the city started working on this project. I was told that they hired a city manager that kind of derailed it for a little while. I don't know who that might be, but we've been working diligently.
Perfection.
Yeah, exactly. We're going from around 10 pages currently to 60, and all of that is in an effort to make it a really clear process that gives us a step-by-step instructions. We're also going to be producing, with the help of Friesen Nichols, a development guide that kind of more in depth on how you can apply, what the application process is, requirements for the number of meetings you need to have so that you can come in and meet with us, et cetera, et cetera. Most recently, we had a meeting with stakeholders on December 6th, a little over a month ago now, and we had a lot of good comments that I'll kind of briefly talk about here in a minute from that meeting. But what I included in kind of this little handout packet is just some excerpted pages. The first three pages are really just the contents, the table of contents that highlights the 5 sections that are included in this plan. Those sections are the general provisions, the subdivision procedures, subdivision plat applications, development review bodies, and subdivision design standards. So those are the main sections of this regulation, and then section 6 has definitions that are relevant to the other sections. So that's really the table of contents that provides you with all the major sections and all the specific sections underneath there. Some of the things we wanted to call out, page 4 of the document highlights our tracks for platting subdevelopments. And so we have 3 different tracks that you can take. We have administrative platting, which is really what we kind of call minor plats. Those are 4 units or less. Those are things that we'll be doing administratively to approve. A lot of those can happen inside the city limits, and they're just people subdividing a tract for a couple lots. But then there's 2 major platting processes that are available to a developer. We plan to allow people to pick one of these tracks and stick with those bubbles. A note is that through all of our discussion with the developers and the stakeholder meetings and our DRT meetings, our platting before construction track, we're gonna kind of split 2 of those bubbles into 4, just to really make it a clear process of when approvals and submissions take place along that process. The other thing we included in your packet is the section on subdivision waivers. Those are something that this body will have a lot of involvement with. We have major and minor waivers. There is a table of minor waivers in the top right-hand corner of that chart. You'll see that the first one has a cross through. We decided to take that out. That means that it's gonna be a major waiver. And so anything that is not a minor waiver in this chart means that if it's outside of the regulations, that it constitutes a major waiver. And so we have associated fees with those that have been proposed for a minor and a major waiver. And all major waivers have to have approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Commission. So, anything that we felt was a life safety issue or something that would drastically change the character of development, we wanted to make sure those stayed major waivers and that those would need to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission and this review body as well.
And minor waivers go to the development review team, and that body makes the decision, and if that body can be appealed to the city commission.
Correct.
On the minor. And if you do more than, you do 3 minors, it's a major.
Yep, that's
If you're trying to
right.
do 3 minors, it
Constitutes a major waiver. So we wanted to highlight those things for you there. I also included this last page drawn out of the subdivision regulations to comment that one of our major comments we received back from the development community was that they wanted to see an option for what they call a ditch section or a rural section in the ETJ of Canyon. We reviewed that with Friesen Nichols and our development review team, and we thought that that would be acceptable. And so we've kind of added, you can see all the text in red down at the bottom, that there's a special call out that if you're in the ETJ, you have these options, and there's 3 options we've kind of laid out there for street sections in the ETJ, so that we won't be requiring curb and gutter in all circumstances. There are circumstances in which you can continue to construct a ditch section if you're outside the city
our
limits.
county weighed in on that conversation.
Yeah, and we met with Randall County and made sure that they were acceptable to all those options, and they said that makes sense to them and it meets their current guidelines as well.
Their biggest was the 4-to-1 ditch slope to be maintained throughout, which might require greater than 80-foot right-of-way in certain circumstances.
Right.
We really defer to them on all of that, on the ETJ. I mean, they basically are designing what they want the ETJ to look like.
We also assume that there is gonna be curb and gutter in a pretty decent size ETJ subdivision, which those are gonna be acre lots. We assume there's gonna have to be stormwater, and that's why it's 70 feet right away instead of our typical 60.
Yeah, so I also wanted to just highlight these last couple pages on the handout packet. Those are questions that we received or comments that we received from the public group meetings that we had, the stakeholder meetings. And they highlighted, like, number 1, the curb and gutter in the ETJ. We addressed that. Private street standards, we address that even if you're building private streets, they need to meet city standards. The development agreement timing, that goes back to those bubbles, kind of really highlighting specifically when, each step will take place. Official submittal dates, that's something that we're looking into. We're gonna, in order to meet the state's shot clock rule of 30-day plat review, we're gonna have specific dates that developers could submit plats so that we make sure we have appropriate meetings to be able to meet those dates.
Or to do that, having one meeting a month.
Right, so our P and Z only meets once a month, and so if somebody were to come in and submit a plat the day after P and Z meets, we won't be able to get the appropriate approvals through the next month. And so we're gonna have a calendar, Friesen Nichols is putting that together, and that's gonna be in our development guide, so you can know exactly when to submit certain things. So those are some of the different comments we had. We had some comments on record drawings, some landscaping, block length things. We addressed all those comments with our DRT. We also had Friesen Nichols go back in and make sure that they cited the Texas state law anywhere that it's applicable to these guidelines. So that's what I came to present. I'd love to hear if you have any questions or comments on these regulations. If you have any, I'd be more than willing to answer to the best of my ability.
I don't have a comment on the regulations, but the process, it was very cool to see, all the stakeholders and you guys in the same room.
Absolutely.
Somewhat cordial.
Yeah, it was good.
Externally.
Those were fantastic.
Not internally, but
Yeah.
it was good. I was really impressed with how well everybody worked together, so it was cool to see.
No, we were happy with those meetings. We think we had good turnout from people who do build here in Canyon. So that was really helpful to us to be able to hear directly from them, their concerns and comments.
And they really struggle with the same things we were, if you notice, Cody. They struggle with when to do something, the timing. I know to everybody, the bubbles are like, what's the big deal about the bubbles? From that meeting, you see those bubbles are a big deal.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to know, when is my homework due? When are you gonna grade it? When is this gonna happen? How quickly can I get this turned around? And we've struggled with that too internally as we've tried to develop that. I mean, and we still discuss what bubble goes where, and Adolfo, where do we put this bubble, and how do we do this, and how do we get back? Because it's so important to the developers, and it's so important to us, but we just wanna make sure we get it right.
Consistency.
We wanna do it the same way every time, and the development guide will be sheets of paper, a booklet that says, here's when your homework's due. You do this, we'll do this. You do this, we'll do this. It takes 30 days to do that, so that everybody's on the same page. And I think, as you heard from that meeting, that will help everybody.
For sure.
So we look forward to that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Please, if you have comments before we get to the next meeting, please come and meet with me or circulate those to us. We meet and you always come and see with us every Friday morning. We meet every Friday morning. So we'll have a full in-depth of the special meeting. Please try not to wait till the last minute to look over this stuff. The subdivision design standards.
Section 5.
Section 5 should be one of the big ones you hit, so.
All right, thank you.
If any questions were submitted individually, we'll put those all together and include those in the packet for February 6th. So I think it'd be good to have those.
Gretchen and I and Megan and Lucas and John will meet, and we'll get a stakeholder meeting as well. We'll get all that focused and funneled with those questions, not stakeholders, those questions, and back out to everybody. So if Gary calls and asks me questions, we'll write it down and we'll submit that out to the group so everybody can see it, just like we did on the stakeholders stuff. So we want to answer anything, everything we can to everybody. So, and like Lucas said, we have already made changes after hearing from stakeholders. Whether we liked them or not, we made those changes, those recommendations. I like curb and gutter. We made those changes so you can see we have already taken action on doing a lot of that.
And we acknowledge this is not perfect. We acknowledge that there'll be changes down the road that will need to occur with this, but this is where we are today. And we think it's strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we were way down the road and then Lucas shows up, and then the new guy shows up, right? And he's got a master's in this stuff, right? So he's looking at it and he's found some more things that we needed to tweak. And we continue to do that because we wanna get it right.
And what we discussed is, you know, it's not gonna be another 20 or 30 years before we look at them again.
Correct.
You know, we're gonna give it time and see what the problems are, and we might revisit these in 6 months and say, hey, these are the things we feel like we need to update in these.
From what Danny and I can see, the existing regs were from 1970. We waited a little long.
And Joe has held us accountable for the comprehensive plan, he's held us accountable for the strategic plan, we'll be accountable for this. I think there'll be opportunities for.
Out of everybody, I'm probably the perfectionist.
How do we look at this again, 6 months, or does it work, and is there something we need to do?
Consistent. Fair and consistent.
Awesome. Great, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, that now takes us to our exec session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.087, economic development, and 551.074, board appointments, construction advisory and appeals board, Canyon Area Library Board, planning and zoning commission, parks, open space and recreation advisory committee, zoning board of adjustment, and the Main Street Advisory Board. And with that, it is 6:30. We will convene into exec session.
Back to you.